All right, and welcome to the Dream Coach. This is episode 6, where we address networking. All right, um, networking that can be scary for a lot of people. Um, I know that I've never been comfortable networking. It can be a nerve-wracking thing. You're you're talking to people. Um, you're engaging with them about something that you want. And it's interesting because I think we do it naturally for certain things, but when it comes to the job search, um, it, we seem to really, really struggle. And I think I know why that is. The first thing that comes to mind, I think, is um, w- why are we doing it in the first place? And oftentimes, um, it's because we've been laid off, right? Which is just a cute word for we were fired. But for some reason, people don't like to use that word, so we came up with laid off. Um, you were fired. And there's nothing wrong with that. It happens all the time. It's been happening as long as people have been hired, right? The real issue is why. But I think being laid off is similar to going through a breakup. Um, it hits our confidence, um, and our security is gone, even though it's a false sense of security, right? There's no such thing as um, job security. You can be laid off at any time, but we feel a little bit more secure when we have that job. And so, just like with a breakup, um, you're vulnerable, you're self-conscious, you get inside your head, and oftentimes you start to question your worth and your value. And then on top of that, um, you want to ask for help, or at least you should, right? Because the reason why most people struggle with finding a new job is because they hide behind that computer screen. You know, they get on Indeed or LinkedIn, and they apply to 100 jobs and they think that they're hustling, and you could definitely find a job that way. It's just going to take a lot longer if that's your only strategy. And so, talking to people, networking is going to be the most effective way of finding a job. And why is that? Well, it's tried and true. It's something we've been networking since the beginning of time. What is networking? Networking is leveraging relationships to create opportunity. Okay, we've been doing that as far back as I guess the beginning of humankind. You got some goats, I got some spices. We barter and we trade. Um, to take back to our respective villages, homes, whatever. And that type of behavior has evolved into, hey, let's meet up for coffee. Let's have lunch. And of course, nowadays, a lot of that stuff happens over Zoom or Teams or something like that. Um, I think what really makes it awkward too is um, people generally network when they're looking for a job. Then they find that job and then they just kind of stop. They put their head down, they focus on work. True effective networking is something that doesn't end, okay? But because we usually, forget about it once we started working, then the next time you're laid off, you're like, oh man, I haven't spoken to these people in a while. What's it going to look like? Me coming, approaching them out of the blue, that kind of thing. And so then the thing is, how do you re-engage people? Okay, so how to engage, how to re-engage. Let's jump into um, doing that. All right. So we're going to start with an approach that prioritizes genuine, low pressure interactions, leveraging the communication channels that we normally use in these modern times. And then we'll look at how LinkedIn can support and extend real world connections. Because what I notice is with younger people now, when you bring up networking, they immediately think of social networking, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. But you have to remember those are just tools. You have to know how to engage with each other without that stuff to then leverage these tools. All right. So you know, this is about leveraging existing relationships and then seeing how we can also make new casual connections through natural conversation, whether it's in person or via phone, text, or video chats. And what would help is if you can start with creating a list of people that you know. And it's easy to start with your peers, colleagues, the people you know in your professional world, right? Um, because those are the people that are more likely to get you the types of connections that you want, right? Which are phone numbers, emails, and other ways of contacting folks directly. Some of these people might even be able to set up meetings and/or interviews. Okay. Um, But don't stop there. Also, think about your family and friends, something that we forget to do because they're usually the separate part of our lives, right? But they've got jobs. And even though you want those immediate connections, the ones that are more than likely to lead to an interview, sometimes those connections take time to be made, right? Um, you're talking to someone, then they have to talk to other people, then they might have to get back to you. So not everything is immediate, but we can also benefit from different tools and resources. We tend to look at things in a linear fashion, but your friends and family, they may know people in your industry, that you're not even thinking about. So a good list of maybe 20, 25 people, that's a good way to start. And let that be a rotating list too. Some people are going to be helpful, some people won't. Um, and when you're writing that list, understand that we're turning these people into advocates. Part of why networking is so effective is because, when we speak to people, ultimately people hire who they like, right? And so we're social beings. And so when we speak to each other, when we engage, the way in which we engage helps us to build trust, and that leads to likability, and you're more likely to refer someone or help someone that you like, right? So it's all intertwined. Okay. So the first thing you want to do is get your name out there. Let people know, hey, I'm available, I'm looking for a job. So casually let everyone know that you know and trust that you're looking for a new role, and make it easy for them to keep you in mind. Okay, and there's simple ways we can do this. Just think about the ways in which you normally contact these people or communicate. This is done via text, quick phone call, um, shooting a message through social media, however you normally engage with people. And again, family, close friends, in addition to your former colleagues, neighbors, the manager at Trader Joe's, whoever you engage with, you don't know who knows who. Okay. So as long as you trust them enough to share information, you want to go ahead and speak with them and have a brief chat. Okay. And, here's some examples. You could say something like, hey, hope you're doing well. Just a quick heads up. I'm actually on the hunt for a new job. Specifically, I'm looking for blah, 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 in a software development role, for example, or something in project management, or, I'm interested in marketing. Okay. why is this important? Most people don't know what we do. So sometimes you have to introduce yourself and or reintroduce yourself and get used to that. It's redundant, but the thing is, people oftentimes know our titles, but they don't know exactly what we do on a day-to-day basis. So you're going to have to, really, if we want people to help us, we need to set them up for success and give them the tools in order to help us. But just start casual, okay? This is the beginning of the strategy here. Um, if you're in person, it's always nice to see if you can set something up. Hey, let's meet for coffee, let's have lunch, or if that you're going to be at an event, like let's say there's a barbecue this weekend, or some type of function. That's a good time to bring things up too. And just in passing, keep it casual. Hey, I'm looking for a job. This is what I do. And if you happen to hear anything through the grapevine, keep me in mind. That kind of thing. And then, of course, email. I always say communicate with people based upon what is most the way that you normally communicate with them. So if there are people that you normally text, go with that text. If there are people you pick up the phone and call, do that. And then maybe there's some people that you email. That's usually going to be people that are not usually as close, or maybe it's a follow up email after you've had a conversation. Okay. Um, but the way you could structure an email is, hey, I hope you're doing well. Just wanted to reach out and let you know that I'm exploring some new career opportunities. I'm looking for this particular role, ideally at this type of company. No worries if you don't know anything, but if you happen to come across any leads or know anyone in that field, I'd appreciate you keeping me in mind. Thank you. And why does this work? Right? It's low pressure for both sides. It's casual. Most people generally do want to help their friends and acquaintances. Okay, so this is a good way to start that conversation. And the reason why you want to start off soft is because um, there can be an air of desperation. Most people are living check to check, and so when you do get laid off, it's kind of like, oh my God, what do I do? I got kids in college, my mortgage, my this, my that. And then you turn into like, you go into overdrive, but you have to remember this is your issue. Okay. And so um, just because it's, I guess, urgent to you doesn't mean it's automatically going to just be urgent to other people. So you have to just think about the way in which we engage. People have their own lives and things like that. Okay. So, this is probably a good time for me to say, you know, have that pitch ready. Okay. Um, hey, I know it's been a while. If you want to re-engage with someone, be honest about it. Hey, it's been a while since we spoke, but you know what? Here's what's going on right now. And if it's somebody you normally talk to, well, then just jump into it. But essentially, you want to give them enough information. Hey, I don't know if you heard, but I'm not working at XYZ anymore. Okay, as my role was as a senior graphic designer. And I love what I do, and I need to get back to work because I got bills. Okay, um, you know, um, and different companies are going to use you different ways. Pretty straightforward, senior graphic designer, but a lot of people still don't know the details of what you do, right? Um, so go ahead and spell it out for them. Maybe they used to know, maybe they forgot. You don't know, but as a graphic designer, just to refresh your memory, I design logos, um, websites. I'm also skilled at product design, though, and I'm really versatile. So anything you throw at me, chances are, um, I can handle it. Okay, and so I'm open to not just graphic design jobs, but also I can do art direction. I am also good at photography. Like just throw all the things out there. People are going to forget some of what you say, but some of that stuff is going to stick. So feel free to, give them as much information as they'll handle. And then that's the verbiage, right? But then also make sure you want to be proactive and do something that we normally forget or we do later. When you're networking, there can be a lot of back and forth. And if there's too much back and forth, you can lose momentum. So if you've got a resume or a portfolio or a website, whatever it is that can help those people help you, give it to them. You mind if I send you this link? Or, hey, how about I just forward you my resume? So that way, when you are engaged in any conversations and, something similar to my background pops up, you already have my resume that you can forward or the link to my website, etc. Okay. Um, and about other ways of you know, networking with people, you know, um, set up a coffee meeting, a lunch, or a Zoom chat, even. Okay, because not everybody. If people are local, let's meet them in person. But you know, a lot of times people are busy or they're not close, and this is where technology does help us. And me personally, I'm fine with the phone, but some people like to really look at each other. And so now we have Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and stuff like that. So there's really um, there's really no excuse to not be able to link up with people in some type of way. Okay, make sure that when you speak to your inner circle, you also want to ask them if they know anyone who works at a company too. All right, this is where you're starting to get specific. Do you know anyone that works at Apple? Do you know anybody that works at Google? And if you know that they know someone that would be helpful, ask them, hey, do you think so and so? Do you think your friend will be open to chatting with me? Can you forward my number or something like that? Can you set this up? There's just a myriad of ways to get this going. So I'm just giving you ideas. Um, and you're going to incorporate it. These are best practices, right? In my advice, but incorporate it into your own strategy. Um, you also want to think about alumni from your school. Do you keep in contact with these people? If you're on LinkedIn, generally, if you've added your high school or your college, then usually it lets you know all of the people that have went to that same school or that institution with you. And so alumni directories are a gold mine, okay, for how to connect with people. Um, and then maybe ask for a referral. Hey, I was wondering if you could, shoot so and so a quick email introduction for me, and maybe let them know that, all I need is maybe 15, 20 minutes of their time to hear about what they do. This could be a conversation. That's the thing. You're not always asking for a job. You're starting by telling people what you need, um, asking for advice, finding out what they know, and then seeing where that goes. Sometimes, most folks are not going to be able to just say, oh, yeah, here's an interview, So never forget that it's about relationship building, okay? And you have to